Hey designer friends, and welcome to the strategy step. So what is strategy? It's kind of an elusive term to both designers and their clients. And so in this video, we're going to cover what it is and how to do it and why it's so important and valuable. So at the end of the day, if we're trying to simplify what strategy is, basically strategy is how you get from point A to point B. So imagine you're in one city, you want to get to another city. There's multiple different ways to get to where you want to go, right? You can walk, you can take your car, you can take a train, you can take a bus, you can take whatever, a private jet. There's multiple ways to get to your goal in life and physically. And how you choose to go about that, that's actually your strategy. Now, here's the thing. Clients come to you and basically they say, we are here today, we're making $1 million, and where we want to go is make, $100 million or $10 million or something like this. So that's their point A, point B, that's where they want to go. And now we have to think about what is the strategy. There are also multiple ways to go about that. What is the right strategy to go from where they are today and where they want to be? Now, basically, one definition that I really like of strategy is from a book called Good Strategy, Bad Strategy, and it basically means that strategy is really understanding what are the core 1-2 challenges about why you are unable to get to where you want to go, to point B, and then you focus all of your efforts into trying to solve those core 1-2 challenges. And we'll go back to the analogy again. We can't do all of the things together, right? If we try to take a train and then walk and then try multiple different things at the same time, usually it won't be able to get us to where we want to go. And so we really need to be focused. And why this is important is because a lot of times we'll do a project, and for example, a website project, and the client has multiple ways to go about and multiple places they want to go to. And if you're trying to go to multiple places at the same time using multiple vehicles at the same time, it's very likely that you'll end up nowhere. So this step is really important to get everybody aligned. Now, here's the tricky problem. A lot of times we say the client as if this is one person, but a lot of times this is multiple people. What's called in the business lingo stakeholders. So there might be a team of management, or even if it's the founder, he might be influenced by whatever, his wife or his team or his investors or whatnot. So there are multiple people involved in defining where we are today and where we want to go. And a lot of times these people might have different notions about where we are today and where we want to go, or how should we even go about getting it. And as long as we're not all clear about where we are, where we want to go, and how we want to go there, we're not going to be able to move. Or whatever we do, somebody might say, oh, this is not what we were trying to do. This is not where we got, or this is not even solving our problem. So the goal here of this step, the strategy, is to make sure everybody is aligned. And this is tricky because, again, they might be in disagreement, and your role here as a strategic facilitator is to bring up, you can't decide from them where they are today and where they want to go and how they want to be there. You can only ask them the question, and if you see that the answers are incongruent or they're conflicting, you can surface it back to them and ask them to make a decision, because you make sure they understand that if you want to get to two different places, you can't pick a road that leads to two different places. You have to be clear about where we are all going. And so a lot of designers are asking, well, but they told me what they need, right? They need a website. They say, do it like this. Can we skip this stage, right? And clients, a lot of times, they don't have time. They don't have money. They want to get things as fast as possible. So they're asking, can we do without this step? However, as I said, doing without this step is exactly leading to the road of, oh, this is not what we meant. So if you're hearing while working with clients, this is not what we meant, this is not what I had in mind, this basically means that there was a miscommunication about what it is that we're trying to do here, where we are, where we want to go, and how we're going to go about doing this, right? So the results, the outcome of this strategy phase are basically going to serve as a compass for all of the decisions that we're going to take throughout the project. This is why it's very important. However, even if you don't have time, even if the budget is limited, it's very important that you go through this process. Even if you do this very, very quickly and not as in-depth as I will show it to you, it's still very important that you get clear answers to these questions. Otherwise, again, this is a road to misunderstanding and both sides not being happy with the results. Now, when we are designers and there's obviously business strategy is a huge topic, but when it comes to us designers helping our clients, there's basically two types of problems that we deal with them, and two of them requires kind of like different strategies. And the two main problems are brand strategy, which basically solves the problem of how do we communicate who we are as a company, as a brand. And then there is website strategy, right? And it's kind of a segment of this different problem, which basically says, how does our website help us achieve some goal, right? Some goal X. A lot of times, if you're doing websites, you might have to do them both, right? Because you can't really build a website if you don't understand the brand that you are building for. However, sometimes they will come with a well-established brand and you'll only solve the website problem for them. But I want to familiarize you with the two, the two different problems. So what does this phase usually looks like? Well, it starts off by doing some kind of a session, right? Preferably live in a meeting with the whole team or in a Zoom call or something like this to learn as much as possible. And I'll show you the guiding questions about what you are trying to learn at this stage. You will be taking lots and lots of notes, learning everything that you can about their problems, who they are, where they are today, where they want to go, how they want to go about this. And you will take lots and lots of notes. You will go back, sit, review them, analyze them, organize them so that it makes sense. You will also do some research, you will gather inspiration, and then you will try to clarify some insights based on what you learned from them, and then you will present it to them. You will basically show them a mirror telling them, so here's what you told me, here's what we agreed about where we are today and where we're trying to go and how we're going to go about it, and then they need to approve it. They need to say, yes, this is correct. You've heard us right. This is what we're trying to do, so that you get approval on this, and this will serve as the compass that we talked about to guide all your decisions down the line. Okay, so let's dive a little bit into brand strategy. And brand strategy is a huge topic which we can do a full-on multiple-hour course on. I'm going to go through this rather quickly, and then I'll show you an actual example that I think will make this more concrete in your head. But keep in mind that I'm going through this pretty fast. When you're trying to learn about a company's brand, what you're trying to figure out is, first of all, who they are. What are they trying to do? What is the vision of the company? What is the mission of the company? Who are even the people managing the company, right? You're trying to familiarize yourself with them. You're trying to learn about their products and their services, both what are the actual technical features of their service or product, but also what are the benefits, which means why people even want to use these features. What does it add? How does it add value to their life? What problems does it solve for them? You want to learn how they are positioned in the market, and this is called positioning, and we do this using something called the onlyness statement. I'll show you this in a minute. We want to learn as much as possible about their target audience. Who are their customer? What do they look like? What are their demographics? What are their worldview? You want to know everything there is to know about them. This is what some people will call the users, right? These are actually the customers of your client. You want to learn about how they want to communicate. Is there anything important to them in terms of how people will feel and what people will know about the brand after communicating or interacting with it? And also you want to understand if there are main business goals, or what are they trying to achieve, and if something is blocking their way there. So this is brand strategy. We'll usually do them kind of like sequentially. First, we'll learn about the brand, and then we'll take all of this learning and then try to implement it on the website. But a website, we're asking different questions when we're trying to think about the website strategy. And that is, what is the actual goals and objectives of this specific website? Why are we building this website? How are we going to measure that we have succeeded with this website? Is this conversion rate? Is this how long people are staying on the website? What metrics are we going to use to make sure that we know that this website is successful? And then in terms of website, we also have to think about content strategy. What is the different contents that we need on the website to achieve all of our goals? And we have a follow-up video after this video specifically about content strategy and information architecture to really understand this step of what content is actually necessary on the website. And then we also want to align on the visual direction. How do we want how do we want the website to look like? What do we want people to feel? It's very important to set and align expectation on these things at a very, very early step to make sure that we are aligned and that the visual design will actually represent the vision in the client's head. And so we'll do this during this part, and we'll do this using the art direction skill and presenting a mood board. And there's also a specific video about the skill of creating mood boards. All right, one more thing which is kind of optional during the strategy phase is running another session called Story Brands to help clarify the client's story. And you can also find out more about the Story Brand workshop in the storytelling skill in this program. We're not going to dive deep into it right now, but this is optional. It helps us in telling the brand's story. All right, I know that's been kind of like a lot, so I want to make this very practical, and I want to show you an actual example of strategy work I did with my clients, so it will become a little bit more practical, perhaps, in your head. All right, so let me show you. This is the actual, this is a client I worked with that's called W. And basically this is the kickoff session and strategy session. So because this is the first actual step now that we've started working together, then this is actually the beginning of the project. And so I've started off by explaining to them what are we doing here in this strategy session. And the goal here is to make sure that their vision and action and expression and experience are all aligned, right? I am going to be responsible for the expression and experience, but they are responsible for vision and action, and I want to know that we are in alignment. All right, so this is basically the agenda for the whole session. I'm basically telling them what are we going to talk about and how long I'll be talking about each of them. Or more, it's not I'll be talking because I'll ask them the question and then I'll listen to them. Now, the duration that you have for these steps, this can be a whole week of workshop or this can be done in 1 hour. That all depends on how much time and budget you have for this project, right? So the timing here is very, very flexible. I'm telling them a little bit about me because this is the first time I'm meeting the team and they have no context about me, so I'm telling them, the companies I worked with. Then I'm telling them a little bit about how the project is going to look like. Remember, this is also a kickoff for the whole project, so I'm basically telling them today we're doing the kickoff, and then I'll present the strategy summary, and then we'll also start working on the website content. Then once that is wrapped up, I'll show them the design presentation, and then we'll move into development. All right, so this is where I basically ask them to tell me about themselves, and I get to know with the actual people in the room. Again, this is really important to understand who am I working with because they are the founders of the company, so their behavior and who they are really represents the brand at this stage. I'm then asking them to tell me about the company, so the story, the vision, mission, the product. I want to learn as much as possible about that. Then we're going into, this is what I talked about, the positioning. And this is a fun exercise called the onlyness statement, which basically is trying to understand what the product is, how does it help, who does it help, why and when. And so basically I'm giving them this exercise to feel out. And here's an example of how this looks when it is filled. So Harley Davidson is the only, and this is why it's called the onlyness statement, because you're trying to describe the thing that only you do, right? So Harley Davidson is the only motorcycle manufacturer that makes loud, big motorcycles for macho guys, mostly in the United States, who want to join a gang of cowboys in an era of decreasing personal freedom. So clarifying these, answering these questions for your own company will try to help clarify what is the value proposition, who is it for. This is an exercise in really, really summarizing it. And because the word only here This really tries to position this company against anything else that exists in the market, right? How are they positioned very differently? This is really fun exercise. This is really also tough to summarize. And then the different people in the room will fill this up, and then we'll review them together, and we'll see kind of if there's an agreement on one of them more than others. We're then taking a break, and then we're talking about the target audience. Then we're talking about their offering, their both features and benefits. And we're talking about communication objectives. What do we want them to know and feel? And I'm leaving space at the end of the session to let them know maybe I didn't ask something that they feel is pretty important. So this is the first kickoff session. And then let me show you basically how, these are my notes. So during the meeting, I'm writing a lot of stuff in my notebook, and then I go back home and I just put a lot of the notes, I'm just organizing them. And by writing them down, I'm starting to see the pattern and starting to kind of like organize here in bold what I think is more important. So I'm just writing here a bunch of notes, trying to learn as much as possible. And it helps me to see the patterns and to a lot of times gain insight about what is the big idea here. How can we summarize this very, very succinctly, because I've heard so much of them talking about this. So here's the positioning, here's 4 different basically statements about who they are. And the one that is marked here is the one that had the biggest agreement on, even though it was kind of like weird and incoherent. And I'll show you later on what I did about this. So this is basically the summary of all my notes, noting different companies that they reference to and researching them a little bit. So it started off with summarizing the notes, and then it kind of leads into research and other things that are on my mind that I think are relevant. And then on the next meeting, I'm basically presenting the strategy to them. So here's how it looks like. So here, I'm again reiterating why we're doing this, to make sure that there is alignment. So here, remember I told you that summary is basically finding what is the core 1-2 challenges. So here, I realized that we have 2 big challenges when it comes to the brand and communicating the brand. First of all, it wasn't really clear what the company is. Is it a company? Is it a nonprofit? Is it a platform? Is it a community? It wasn't really clear. And if they didn't know how to communicate clearly what they are, obviously they were confusing their customers and audience. The second thing is they were having tough times with being authentic, because they are working with women, and they wanted to not just look like happy company, because they find out that there is a lot of dark things that their community deals with, and a lot of pain and stuff like that. And they felt that if they are only presenting the happy side of things, they are actually not being authentic. So those are kind of like key challenges that we were trying to solve with how we tell their story. All right, so focusing on the first question, on the first challenge, and you'll see that the way I'm structuring this presentation is very tailored to their challenges, right? So the first challenge is describing who they are. So I reviewed basically how a lot of the other organizations that they've mentioned, and I took basically the value proposition from their website to show how they describe themselves. So this business defines itself as a global network. This business presents itself as a nonprofit organization. This one is an international women's organization. This one is actually a club. So here is basically what they wrote for me, right? They try to describe themselves as W is a womb. All right, so I told them, look, what you wrote about yourself is very unique, but it's completely not clear, and that's not going to help us, clarify to your audience what it is that you really do. And so I come up with a suggestion. This is where this step is actually a creative step, right? I was looking at my notes, and between all of the different opinions and stuff that they were telling me, I was looking for a way to merge all of these ideas into something that is coherent, right? So the way I've thought it would be more clear is to say W is a global community that advances the awakening of women leaders all around the world who want to support a strong sisterhood when pursuing more out of life in an area of burning need. So this is a suggestion. This is me basically giving them an idea based on what they told me. And this is a suggestion, and a lot of times they will have feedback on it and will iterate on it. But the idea here is to basically get to an agreement. All right, in the terms of, the second issue was around authenticity, and they were talking about values. What are the different values if you're in their community? And I saw as something that really repeats itself out of all the different things that they were talking about being wild. And I've basically found some poem. I'm not going to read it all to you, but I've definitely found a poem that is, I think it's called What It's Like to Love a Wild Woman. And in it, it was talking about combining this dark and lightness, which is the conflict in authenticity. This is basically what they were talking about. And so this helped me to basically clarify for them, right, what the big idea here, right? And a big idea is a concept that you're probably familiar with from marketing, right? It's basically the simple sentence or a slogan that encapsulate what this brand is about, like Nike, just do it, or Apple, think different. This is the encapsulation of the brand. And for them, basically, I've combined it, or I've compressed it into embrace your wildness. Now again, this is a creative exercise. This is my suggestion based on everything that I've heard from them to encapsulate their brand into a sentence. And then, as you can see, we have this pyramid, and basically the pyramid is, the name is the shortest, basically kind of like signal of the brand. And then we have the slogan or the brand, which is one sentence. And then we have a value proposition, which is a longer sentence. And then we have a narrative. So I'm helping them build basically this messaging pyramid throughout these exercises. So in terms of value proposition, my suggestion was transform your life with the support of a sisterhood of wild, ambitious, helpful women. And again, this is just a suggestion of how they can encapsulate the value proposition. And then I also try to tell their story. So you can see that I'm taking this big idea of embrace your wellness, and I'm now expanding it into a paragraph, and now I'm trying to expand it into a narrative. And I won't go through this, but basically I was telling them the story here, and I do this by breaking it down into a story and bringing some images to make this more relatable, and basically telling their story that all comes down to, the story of embracing their wildness, because this is what their brand is all about. So, and then I'm telling them the story and closing it with W, embrace your wildness. And basically, that's it. I'm telling them their story, and I want to see if this resonates with them, if this encapsulate and solve the two challenges that they had in terms of their brand, which was one, to define what they actually are, and then embrace this conflict between lightness and darkness. So this is the end result that I'm giving to them, is these pyramids of messages that will allow them to clearly communicate and tell their story, whether it's on the website or whether it's anywhere else where they need to explain what their business does. So this is the summary of the actual strategy. And then we went on to do the website strategy. So for the website, we were talking about what are the goals for the website, what content do we need, and what is the look and feel. So this is basically, again, kind of like the brand strategy session. This is me just asking them all of the question, what is our goal for the website? What is the visitor's goal for the website? How are we going to define success? Here I was brainstorming with them about content. What do we need? Do we need blog? Do we need to show the offers? Do we need a newsletter? Do we need bios? All of these different contents that we might have through the website. This is a discussion and a brainstorm. And then we were talking about the look and feel. So I've asked them in advance to bring reference to things that they love and to things that they don't love. I've also went ahead and did a bunch of research and came out with a few suggestions to talk about website that I thought might have things that are relevant to their story and their problem. And basically, I wasn't, as you can see, these things are very, very different, but I've basically wanted to see their reaction to it and hear, oh, we can relate to this and we can't relate to that. So as I said, the idea here is to get alignment on what kind of goals you have, what kind of content you need, and what look and feel you're gonna go with for this website. So I hope this helped you kind of clarify how these sessions actually work. I want to give you some tips on how to manage these sessions yourself. So first of all, you wanted to make it clear that you are the person running this process and give them confidence that you know what you're doing. So to help them set up for this, share, of course, create a calendar invite for them, share the agenda for the meeting in advance, tell them here are the things that we're going to talk about, here's how long this session is going to take. As I've said, if you have a chance to do these sessions face-to-face, it is so much better and you get to learn and connect with your clients so much more if you can do this face-to-face. Now, come prepared, do your homework, know what you're talking about, run through the presentation so that you're confident asking the question, interviewing them, guiding the discussion. In terms of homework, do some research about competition, who else is in the industry, what they are offering or website looks like right now so that you can guide the discussion based on some learnings and not come out like with completely clueless about their industry and what they're doing. Make it clear during the meeting that you run the meeting. As I showed you, because these meetings and discussions can become very, very long. People love talking about their business. You need to be very clear about, we have 10 minutes or we have 20 minutes to talk about this point, and you keep track, and then you say, look, in order for us to be able to cover this whole agenda, I need to move on to the next step right now. If at the end you'll feel like there's something that we didn't cover, we can go back to it. But right now we have to move forward. Otherwise, we won't be able to, conclude the meeting in time, covering everything that we need to cover so far. Now, remember, this is basically you coming to listen, all right? You want to learn as much as possible and you want to take notes. So write down everything and just listen. Ask questions and then listen, dive deeper, dig to find out, what's underneath, but always be in a listening mode. You don't need to show how smart you are. There's just them telling you about their business. So just listen, take notes, and try to learn as much as possible. When you go back home, make sure to organize your notes. I know I have a problem when I'm jotting down notes very quickly during a meeting where my attention is half split between listening and noting. I go back home and sometimes I don't really understand what I wrote down. So very quickly after the meeting, while it's still fresh in your head, digitize all of your notes and make sure, as I showed you in a Google Doc or whatever, make sure everything is organized and they are documented. And as you'll do this, some dots might connect and you'll have some more insights about this. And you always try to think, is there a better, more efficient, clear way of saying what it is that they want to say? And what is the big idea? What is the idea that connects everything that I heard today in this session that we can use as a big idea for this brand, for this company? Now, remember, both these exercises, both the brand strategy and the website strategy are, in essence, creative exercises where you have to later connect the dot and bring your own ideas to the table, as I showed you, both in terms of messaging and also in terms of the content and also in terms of the look and feel. You have to bring your own inspiration and your own ideas into it. So take time to do this properly. As I said, the website strategy has two more components, which are research and content strategy, which are the following videos that you can watch after this, and also presenting the mood board, which is part of the art direction skill. So if you want to pause after this video, watch these two videos so that you'll be able to complete the strategy phase as they are part of this milestone. And as I've said before, the time and effort that you can spend doing this really depends on the budget and the time that you have for this project. This can be This can take a month, this can take a week, and this can take a day. All depends on the budget and time that you have for it. But make sure you run through this, even if it's very, very fast, and you have to learn how to control that process, how long you have for that process, again, depending on the budget that you have. Your goal at the end of this step is to get approval on the goals that they have, on the messaging you'll go with, on the content that will be shared through the website. And not content in terms of all of the copy in the website, but at least the main content in the sitemap and what pages are necessary, and also agreement on the look and feel of the website and the brand. And that's it. That actually concludes the first milestone. Once you've got agreement on the strategy, approval on the strategy, you have completed your first milestone in your web design project. Yay, congrats. And perhaps this is also a time to get paid for this milestone before you move on to the wireframing step.